Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Destiny and welcome back to the series. So in this episode, we're going to go ahead and work with little JavaScript to help work with our navbar and some little drop downs that we're going to be adding. So that's really going to be fun and interesting. Without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to open up my code editor. Remember from the last video, we worked on this and our code was looking somewhat responsive and working perfectly well. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and work with JavaScript. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to open up JS folder and I'm going to open up main.js. And I also want to open up index.html. And finally, I'm going to open up style.css. So before we go ahead and work with the JS, I want to add one more attribute over here that we're going to use just below this video. I want to add a new div inside here, and I'm going to paste the recommended over there. Now this div that's in here, I want to call it drop down container. So I'm going to give it a class of drop down container, just like this. And just below the recommended, I'm going to create a new div, and I'm simply going to give this one over here a class of, let's say, drop down content background. That's what I'm going to be using, drop down dash contents, and let's just give it background. And also I want to okay, we're going to do this later when we start working with it. Now in the drop down I want to create another new div, and this div is simply going to give it drop down contents. So this one is going to be drop down contents. Take notes, not content but contents. And also finally, I'm going to create a new div, and I'm going to give it a class of drop down then content. Okay, so that's it. Now I want to come in here and I'm going to create an I tag. I'm going to give this one a class and I'm going to call it material dash icons, and we should simply call this one video cam. Okay, so if you come over here now, you'd see that we've got this video cam thing, and I'm going to put it side by side just like we've been working before, so we'll see how everything is actually going. And video cam, so that's it. Now the next thing is to go ahead and put in a span, and I'm simply going to say something like create. And okay, as you can see, we've got that over there. So this is one content. I'm going to copy this content. What am I doing? I'm going to copy this content and I'm simply going to paste it down and down again. So that one might be create. Let's say you want to upload a video or something. This one should be something like settings. So I could say I could just add a gear icon over here, and as you can see, we don't have any gear icon. So what I simply want to do is just go ahead and search for a settings icon in Google Fonts. So I'm just gonna say Google, and we need to look for Google Fonts. I'm just gonna come over here. We've got this one. So open this up, and I'm gonna open this up and come over to the icons. And at the icons, we simply want to search for, let's say, something like gear icon. Okay, and as you can see, it was called settings instead. So I'm gonna simply type it in over there, settings, and let's check out my browser. Okay, and as you can see, we've got settings. And finally, let's say this one should be something like sign out or switch account, something like that. So let's say switch account, and this should be like, remember we've used something like user before, and as you can see, that's not working. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to search for user, and this is it over here. I'm simply going to change this to person add or person dash add. Then okay, that's not still working. Let's see what's the problem. Switch account. Oh, this is where I'm supposed to add it. Rather, I'm sorry for that. I'm going to say person dash add, and as you can see, that's working. So then down here, I simply want to say switch account. So I'm going to simply add switch account, something like that. And when that's done, I think that should be it. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just gonna add person over there, and I think that should be it. Now we need to go ahead and style this in our CSS. So I'm gonna open up style.css, and let's just do this below the h1. Firstly, we need to get the drop down container. I think that's what I called it, and we need to give it a display flex, so everything gonna stay on the same line with the recommended. And we also need to align items, so I'm gonna say align items not letter spacing but align items, and we're going to call it center. And finally, I want to add a justify content, and it's going to be a space between, so I need spaces in between them to push this one to the end, just like that. Now after this, the other thing we want to do is go ahead and get the drop down content. So I'm going to say drop down dash content, not the contents, and I want to give this one a display of flex, so everything stays on the same line. I want to give it align item, and we could simply just give it center. And let's see, okay, this is content. Let's make sure that that's what we called it over here. So as you can see, the boat is contents, so I'm going to make this one contents, and this now is going to stay on a straight line. So that's pretty much what I want to do. And also we could just go ahead and get the background. So remember the background one that we had. I'm going to push this down so I have more space to work with. So I'm going to say drop down dash contents dash background, and this one we could just give it a background color of, we could just choose a costume color that we're going to use. I'm just going to put something like that, and that's okay. So the next thing we want to do is just add a padding, and I'm going to say 15px. Let's see, that's still okay. And we can also go ahead and add the z index. So I'm going to say z index, and I just want to add 2 over here. And I'm also going to come to the back, and I'm going to say later we're going to add a display none, but for now I'm just going to add a border radius. So I'm going to say border radius, and I'm going to say 10px. So this is pretty much what I want, and it seems to be too sharp, so I'm just going to say 4px, and that's okay for me. Now I need to go ahead and target the drop down content and I, so I need to say dot drop down content, and I need to target the I just like that, and I need to give this a color of white, and as you can see the color is now white. And also I need to give it a margin right of 5px, so I'm gonna say margin right, and I'm simply gonna say 5px, and it's gonna get back. As you can see, it won't be really attached to the text again like that. And after that, the next thing I want to do is go ahead and target the span also. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it down here. And for this one, I'm targeting the span, so I'm going to change this to span, and the color is going to be white. I don't need any of this, rather this should be margin left, and I want to shift it all the way away from that. And I think that's pretty much what I want to do. One more thing I'd want to do is over here, I'd like to add a padding to this content. So I'd like to say padding, and I'm just adding like 5px. That's because I want to add some spaces in between this text over here. So that's looking somewhat good. And the next thing that I would want to do is just go ahead and add the show drop down. So just down here, I'm gonna add a dot show drop down. So I haven't done this before, I haven't done this in the HTML. I'm gonna do it later. So show drop down, and it's inline. Now there is something I'm gonna do over here. I'm gonna come over to this background, and I'm gonna add a display, and I'm simply gonna add none. So as you can see, it's display none. Now what does this mean? If we come over here and to this place and add show dash background, did I call it background? Show drop down, rather show drop down. Okay, as you can see, it shows the drop down. Now I have a little exercise for you guys to jog your memory with what we've done. As you can see over here now, when I put the show drop down, it pushes this text down. I want you to do something, and I don't want you to do it on your own. Actually, just make a little research and try fixing the bug. So just make a research on how to bring a div to the front of text. And to give you a hint, you'd be using something like C index, and you want to play around with position, relative, absolute, and fixed in order to get this. So I want to give you guys the assignment. Try doing this and fixing it, okay, before we go ahead and continue. So you could just pause the video and do that. So the show drop down does this. When I remove this, it goes away. When I put this, it comes back. So now we're going to use JavaScript to add that automatically. And in order to do that, when we click on this, that's when we want to see drop down, okay? So that means we want to go look for that person. That is this one over here. Let's look for it. That's one over here. Now give it an ID of drop down, okay? So after you given it an ID of drop down, remember we still have this ID of menu. that we have over here. Remember this ID of menu. Now you want to come over to JavaScript. So this is where we're going to start doing some of our little JavaScript code. Now remember we connected it from the very first video and it's working. So I want to say const menu. This should be equal to document dot. We could use query selector. So query selector, I simply want to get hash menu because that's what we called it. You remember from CSS, if you want to grab onto ID, you use hash. If you want to grab onto CSS, if you want to grab onto classes, you use dots. That's the same thing with JavaScript. So as you can see, we want to grab onto menu, this one that we called over here. This one that we called over here. So that's how we grabbed onto it. We also want to grab onto the one that we called drop down. Okay, I think it's drop dash down, and I'm gonna name this drop down just like that. This one over here is let's look for the drop down section. I'm gonna come down. As you can see, where is the accounts? This is it over here. It's called drop down. So I've got some of the two things that I need. Now I need to go ahead and also get sidebar. So I'm gonna say const, I'm just gonna get at the top, and I'm gonna say const sidebar, and this should be equal to documents. We could still use query selector again, query selector, and this time around we are getting a class, so we're gonna say dot sidebar. Okay, and finally I want to console log the sidebar and see what we are getting. So I'm simply gonna log sidebar over here, and I want to come over to my console here, and as you can see we are getting the sidebar. But how about we do something like mess up with this code? As you can see we are getting null, so the sidebar is working perfectly well. How about we want to also console drop down and menu to see if we are actually getting them the right way. As you can see, we got the drop down the right way, and the menu, let's see, as you can see we also got the menu the right way. So everything is looking really good now. So now I need to go ahead and add an event listener for the menu. So I'm going to say menu dot add event listener, and this one is simply going to be a click event. And over here we're simply going to add a function. This function is not going to have any parameter. Open up a parenthesis, then in here that's where we want to write a very simple line of code. So I want to say sidebar dot class list dot toggle. Okay, now what do we want to toggle? We want to toggle the show sidebar that we created. Show sidebar, that's what we simply want to toggle whenever we click on this button over here. So what do you notice? As you can see, it's toggling it. Okay, so that's pretty much what we want to do over here. Now the next thing we want to do is go ahead and work with this one. So when we click on it, it opens up the drop down. So I'm simply going to copy this and paste it down here. Now this one is going to be it's going to be drop down the add event listener, click. Then what we simply want to get is, I'm going to get back to the index.html. I'm going to get back to index.html, and I need to look for what I want to get. So what I simply want to get is the I'm going to get back, I'm going to get down here, and let's see. So this is what I want to get over here. I'm simply going to copy this. I'm going to get back to the main JS. I'm simply going to say const, and we could just call this drop down just like that, and I can say drop underscore down, and I can say it should be equal to document dot query selector, and I simply want to pass in dot this. Okay, so now over here I'm gonna say drop down the add event listener click should be equal to this dot toggle, then I want to toggle drop dash down. Okay, so with that, now when I come over here and click, as you can see nothing shows up, and that's because over here I need to pass in drop underscore down. This one I've got over here, dot class list dot toggle, then drop down, and let's make sure that this one actually is working perfectly well. Now after all this, I think there is let's get back to the index, the HTML. Now I'm gonna get back to this place over here. Okay guys, so we want to say drop down dot class list dot toggle, and what we simply want to toggle is the show drop down, not the drop down itself. So show drop down, it refreshes. Now we click on this is working. We click on this is working. So that's simply what you want to do over here. Now I want you guys to go ahead and fix the bug that I showed you, and that's just to juggle your brain a little bit. So this is what we've got over here, and everything seems to be working perfectly well. And yeah, that's gonna be it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something. Hopefully you did. Do not forget to drop a review if you're actually digging this video, and any of my social media handles, and I'll be there to help you guys out. I hope I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.